we're kind of paring them down right now. Like Thunderbolts is ending at 4, which was the plan, and Guardians is ending at 11, which was the plan. And then we haven't announced what's next. But even there, it's like
Billy's about to find out.
yeah, exactly. But there's one really exciting, cool, kick-ass thing next.
You do have something coming up.
We do. We have.
Yes.
It's
pretty dope.
We do. We have a thing coming, but it's not.
We'll talk about a creative.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly right now, like this year, we're kind of stepping off of the Marvel train a little bit to try to focus on creator-owned, and then Outsiders at DC, which is really just been like a dream come true for us.
Oh, I think you were sleeping on
You're
sleeping on it?
That's on with Batwoman, right?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. I only did issue 1. I wasn't prepared to be the only person.
We got the security guard. You're here too.
I do want to. I feel like I want to get you both. We know your face, but you got to come by our booth tomorrow, and we'll like put some free shit into your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you don't have,
exactly.
Come hook you up.
Yeah. Come get the hook up tomorrow. You deserve it.
This is
This is very silly.
It's great. It's great. I love it.
Just go down to Artist Alley, like, guys, where are you at?
Right? I think right now.
Charging my phone. Blair Witch.
Yeah, no, it's always a weird thing because, like, the trick with these things is that when you put them this late in the day, just like people aren't showing up to panels. Like most people, like you're awesome. Like most people aren't showing up to panels this late. That's just not a thing that they do. If I was doing this, it gets to 7 o'clock. I want to go get some dinner. Yeah, I'm gonna go get some dinner.
Well, 7 o'clock night 1 too.
And also, right, effectively preview night.
There is school tomorrow for people who are here. You know.
I was really surprised by some of the time. I was like, oh, that really feels like maybe that's just like how they do.
Well, Collin didn't even know. He's like, we have a panel.
Well, yeah. The thing Colin doesn't know our legion.
Yeah.
We just tell Collin where to be.
I am the producer. Yes.
Chances are I'm wandering off somewhere. I'm asleep in a corner.
He found a dragon.
It's okay. There's 3 people watching this over there.
Hey! There are 3 times as many people on the internet as there are in the room. Well done.
They don't know that.
They do now. I'm leaning into this. I think when this kind of stuff happens, you really have to like make a.
I'll go first.
You really got to make a play. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, come up here. We don't need to use the microphone.
You were like, oh shit, man. I was just gonna like dip in, see what's going on.
He was like, yeah, I was literally going to be here for 5 minutes. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten all day. My feet hurt. I went to Disney before this.
No, I did my 5:30 p.m. dinner. I was prepared for the whole hour.
That's how you know you've been on before.
Yeah, you know.
This man is smart.
Well done. Well done.
But also the interesting thing is like fan expos are so not comics focused. Do we have opinions?
We do have it.
Yes.
Yes.
Wait, what is this?
I was just saying fan expo is not really comics forward.
Oh,
It's how many stars can we get to the show, and then by the way, comics. You can go in the corner over there, right? And it's not because you can't. Comics are what's driving pop culture right now.
Yeah, but you know, I do have a hard time trying to be like, oh yeah, don't go see Mark Hamill. Like, come hang out with me. Like,
Well, I think isn't the Back to the Future panel going on right now?
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is. I think
Great.
that's honestly why. I think the Back to the Future panel is happening right now.
Sure, I love this for us. Like but that's that's kind of the process of these things. Like I think what I'm learning about these shows generally is that because I came here as I was coming to San Diego Comic-Con, WonderCon, stuff like that as a fan, well before we were we used to pilot our buddy's PT Cruiser and drive to San Francisco for WonderCon, and like. I didn't really go to panels. Maybe I went to like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Mostly I went and tried to talk to the people whose work I love. And even there I was always nervous. I was like scared.
Because there's usually like line too.
Yeah, it's like new people and you don't know what you're...
I love you too, Mike.
Like, yeah, exactly. So I think like the point of these shows in a lot of ways is like, you try to leave having met like one real person. Like one person who's like, oh, you like the work, you want to hang out, like you're a real head. Great. let's do that.
Right.
Because like that's if I had one great interaction like that as a fan when I started, it stuck around with me forever. Shit, I mean, the first real legitimate comics artist I ever met at a show like this was Derek Robertson.
Oh yeah.
Who I was a huge, enormous fan of Transformation in my life. Like Transformation was the reason I started writing comics. And so I went and met him, and he was really nice to me. We had like a 5-minute chat. And then several years later, we re-met because we were launching our first book, it's the Cult Freak Show, and he had heard about it. I think we just like a good friend of ours is his manager, and had like brought me to their first meeting because he hadn't read any of Derek's work, but he was like, "But I really want to bag this client, so will you come with me?"
Kenny the Ringer.
Yeah, will you come with me and geek out about all of Derek's work? And I was like, "Yeah, I've read The Boys. Let's go." And like, now my buddy's a producer on The Boys, right? But like at the time, he hadn't read shit. And so I was like the guy. And then we went to San Diego, and Derek was just like, "So hey, like, is anybody drawing your cover?"
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, I mean, our artist is going to draw a cover. Like, he's like, "Are you going to have a variant?" I was like, "We're a little indie book, like probably
Like,
not."
nobody's gonna, like,
He was like, "I'll draw it." I was like, "Well, yeah, but like we can't pay your rate, Derek Robertson." He's like, "No, I'll do it for free." I was like,
I'm
"What?"
sorry, free?
And then legitimately, he took us. We went to his hotel room that night.
Close the door.
Yeah.
You better
You're
just
the
shut
only
the
one
door
in.
and make it look like it's absolutely smashed.
Boom. Let's go.
You're trapped in here with us.
Oh my god, absolutely outstanding. But genuinely, he took us to his hotel room. We had a bottle of whiskey, and he just asked us about the characters. There were like 5 characters were supposed to be on this cover, and one by one, he just asked us who they were and what their design was. We showed him, the design from the book.
I didn't share this with you. Got completely loaded and trashed.
Yeah, and then
The whole bottle was gone.
yeah, and then I'm sure we went through that bottle that night. And he just asked us about the book, and then he had like a board.
Was he drawing while?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
he
God,
literally
this is like- how do you contain yourself?
like he was like this. He took a board and he put the board on his bed at the San Diego Hyatt, and we were all at the Hyatt, and we were just in his room. He put the board on the bed, and he knelt at the bed like he was fucking doing his prayers, right? And he just was drawing on the bed because there wasn't a desk he liked, so he was just doing this. And the whole time he's like, "All right, so like, does this guy ever take off his helmet? If I wrote this character, he'd never take off his helmet. He'd probably never take off the suit. The suit would just be like filled with shit, right? He'd just smell terrible. That's what's going on, right?" I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." Number 2.
Yeah.
There's 2 of us.
Love it.
200%.
Welcome to the biggest panel at Megacon, man.
Shit.
It's falling out of here. So.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think he was just like fucking raw dogging it with a Sharpie.
He was legitimately. It was insane. It wasn't like a shark.
It was
he was
the
doing
front
it.
desk pen.
Yeah, and he was just doing this, and like the whole time we're sitting, and I'm just geeking out. And like I was so stunned. And the next day, and then and he gets it mostly sketched out in front of us, and then goes, cool. I'm gonna I'm gonna put this to the side now, and then I'll finish this later for you guys. But I'm so glad you dig it. And we just hung out and drank and had a good night, and broke into the pool. We had a crazy night that night. That night was
moving really fast.
legit. That night was
It was like
crazy.
a crazy night with Derek Robertson.
Just everybody casually has a crazy night where Derek Robertson tries your variant cover, and you just drink a bottle and go to the pool.
Exactly. Is that how
You guys haven't had a night like that?
we had
Robertson.
It was a phenomenal night, and then the next morning he met us for breakfast, and he was like, "That cover's terrible. I'm gonna start again." and he did, and he just did it again, and it was beautiful. And then when the book came out, because it was co-written with the guy who introduced Collin and I, this guy David Server.
Pre-Collin.
Yeah, this is before we started working together. He brought the covers, or he came to LA to do an opening signing with Golden Apple, and he's just the nicest guy, man. Derek's just the best. He's just the best. And he came with the cover, and he gave the nice finished cover to David, who's his manager, which makes sense. And then he had the Drunken Night sketch cover, and he gave it to me, and I was like, "I'd much rather have this."
Yeah.
Is that the final cover?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, he killed it. And so I now that thing that Derek that Derek hated, that he couldn't be bothered to finish, is up on my wall in my living room. Like it's like it has like a place of honor.
Scooby Doobert and like
Okay.
Which one is Shooby Doober?
Come on, you're making this look bad for reference.
I don't know.
No, it's
I
called.
can't tell
This is actually really good because like I'll be TikTok.
So actually, I do get to review your guys' comic books through the website that we do.
Oh, I just
Oh,
read
nice.
the Guardians.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we get to read, and if you guys don't know, they do all sorts of amazing things. I mean, IDW, the hottest comic book out there right now is like Star Trek, and that's these two gentlemen right here. You're getting Thunderbolts, which is pretty much setting the groundwork for coming to the theaters here next year. Allegedly.
Yeah.
That's what's in
Theoretically, yeah.
In theory, that's what's happening, right? And then, of course, you get the Outsiders, which is the Bat family without having to shove Batman in their face because everyone knows it's like the Batman comic.
Except in issue 3, which was all about how many Batman comics.
You're inside Batman's head,
Yeah.
which is
Can we talk about
fantastic.
that
though.
trauma room with the pearls? Because I died laughing.
Thank you. They're all just like
That's a
they're
cool joke.
I
all just
thought that
looking at him.
was-
I
that
know.
was
I
too
was
good.
This is such a.
I even took a picture of it and like showed it to my daughter. I'm like, how funny is this?
But it was like low-key one of the better DC books that I've gotten to read this year.
Thank you so much.
Because we always get to see Batman, but we don't ever get to go inside Batman's mind.
Yeah, well, what's been really interesting about that book in specific, that particular issue, is that while we were doing that issue, Chip Zdarsky was simultaneously going inside Batman's head. It's a whole premise inside of his Batman run right now where he has this collective, he has this sort of collective unconscious space where the Batmen are, that completely without coordination, he visualized identical to how we were visualizing. We both took the short straw and we're like, oh, well, it's an Escher room, right? Oh, there's staircases to nowhere and there's all sorts of weird stuff. Obviously, it's a mind palace. And he pulled that same trigger we did in the same month that we did. So the books suddenly coordinated in a way that they were not intending on coordinating. We didn't sit there with Chip and be like, let's talk about what we're doing. Never.
But we definitely saw reviews that were like, fascinating how DC is approaching this from two different directions.
They're working together so well.
And it's like you'd think that we were, but we weren't. We were all just kind of operating on the same wavelength, and we're huge fans of Chip, so like it maybe is no surprise that we would play in the same sort of mental headspace. The crazy thing about that book, though, for me, and I feel like I can take the mask off a little bit on it because
We're all friends here.
well, and because somebody, because there's nobody here, and because somebody wrote an article about it, which I thought was really nice. Like somebody actually like caught it on like one of those content calls, like Screen Rant or something, like caught this and wrote an article, which I thought was really cool. Which was like what Chip is doing in large part is about Batman, his own subconscious. It's all in world. It's all really dealing with like the being in Batman's mind and what that means for Batman. For our characters, it was about stepping into the narrative singularity caused by the weight of Batman. Like the fact that Batman, when you work at DC, is the book that sells. You hear this all the time. You're like, oh, well, if you want royalties at DC, if you want to be making like legitimate money in comics at DC, there's basically like two characters. There's Harley Quinn and there's Batman. And that's really the characters that are gonna sell sort of no matter what. And you know that you're gonna find a good like financial sales point there. So that's true for DC too. They're gonna produce more Batman books. Hello and goodbye!
He was like,
Yeah.
this guy is.
This guy's a real.
He said, this guy is staring at me sort of weird.
I mean, I shouldn't have made eye contact.
Yeah, that was on you.
Oh, my
That was
bad.
on you. But when we came in on Outsiders is again the mask is kind of off now. Like Outsiders is a spiritual sequel to a book called Planetary that meant an enormous amount to us growing up, by Warren Ellis and John Cassaday. A book that is very much about deconstructing 20th century pop culture, 20th century myths, everything from Dracula to Superman to the Fantastic Four to 2001: Space Odyssey. Like it just grabs from everywhere and tries to look at what those stories meant and then sort of try to build a story around those stories and about understanding those stories and how you go through your own arcs as a person through what you read and what you consume. I just think it's a brilliant book, and it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to both of us. And so when we came on Outsiders, the secret behind our whole pitch was like, we're actually pitching Planetary 2, but we can't call it that. We don't want to say that. We don't want to muddy Planetary. What we want to do is be there for the next generation who doesn't maybe know that book and wants to maybe find it, but use that same framework that book used, which very few books do, which is a non-violent, archaeological, like understanding-based Star Trek framework to talk about the DC universe. So we're like, okay, every issue is going to dive into some weird corner of the DC universe and do something weird. In issue 1, we're going to dive into the remnants of the Wildstorm universe and start to reintroduce that. In issue 2, we're going to talk about how, as much as we love seeing Aquaman kill sea monsters, it kind of makes him a war criminal. We're going to deal with in 3, we're going to talk about how there's too many Batman books and how it does kind of choke out everything else at DC by the very nature of the market supplying so many Batman books because the audience,
all of you,
all of you people here, you 100 people,
Especially the guy who popped in the left.
He only buys Batman books. But to use Batman characters, like outsider Batman characters like Batwing and Batwoman, to talk about that, I mean, when we turned in that script, I was like, they're going to cancel this book. There's no way.
It's pretty critical about DC and its obsession with Batman.
And instead they just leaned in. And that's been the consistent thing with Outsiders, is I think they all knew what it was. They all knew what we were trying to do. They
We have
backed it.
fucking beefy outlines.
Yeah.
Like, guys, no surprises.
Like, we're serious.
Here's what this is.
And we know what the ending is, right? It's a maxi series. It's 12 issues. It's built for an ending. We've known the ending since the beginning. We're big believers in that. Same with our Guardians run.
Yeah.
Same with our Thunderbolts run. Thunderbolts is only 4 issues, but it has an ending. And like, if it goes on, which I hope it does, I think we'll do a sequel at some point.
But it will be a sequel.
But it'll be a sequel. It'll not be a
It
continuation.
definitively ends with issue 4.
It definitively ends with issue 4. Yeah. And that was like, it really felt important to us to be like, we love putting endings on our books. And maybe that's because our early books got canceled before we got to end them, by and large.
Yeah, a lot of our runs got beheaded early.
Yeah, Gotham
Anyway,
City
like-
Garage got killed earlier than we thought. Green Arrow got killed in its first issue. Like our run was supposed to start on issue 50, and we did 2 issues of like cleanup for Heroes in Crisis, and then instead our book ended at 50.
DC was like, just kidding.
Yeah, legitimately.
I mean, between when that book ended and our book started, Bendis swept it.
Yeah, and Bendis
then
wanted Green Arrow.
To be fair.
Yeah, and we weren't. Who were we to say no? Like, especially.
Like, now wait a minute.
Well, we were really excited because we're going to set it up for Bendis, and then Bendis would sweep in and be like, "Oh my God, thank you!
Yeah.
You guys are such a great thing. Congratulations! You are now my apprentices."
You're
And we were
getting,
like,
you know.
Yeah, we were really
support
hoping.
and
We
shit.
were really hoping to become Ryan Bendis' apprentices, and instead we literally never heard from him. So, one of these days, I'd love to
That's
meet him.
coming, I
Send
promise.
by.
They might notice us.
But yeah, we're going to continue. But then everything in Outsiders is really like unfolding in a newer and exciting way. And we just wrote issue 7, and I mean, like, it starts leaning closer and closer into kind of an Animal Man.
Yeah.
If you kind of know where that kind of trajectory could kind of lie, and like we're really unleashing our Grant Morrison.
Very
As
cool.
much as we love, as much as we love a lot of these titans of the industry, it's like Grant is our guiding star.
Yeah, Grant's the guy who, because it's interesting, right? Because there's 2 of us, and we work together on everything. We're not we're not a couple of writers who got like kicked together. Any of you listen to your show,
Right, like everybody,
that.
for the most part, when you see writers, it's solo. Otherwise, it's 10 different stories within a thing. But you guys, it's always, you're together.
Mhm.
Like, there is no one without the other. And I think, honestly, that's what makes a lot of your ideas, at least to me, and I don't know if you guys would agree, but it makes it refreshing. That's why you always know, like, oh, this isn't going to be a rehash of X, Y, Z. It's like, they're going to...
People are comic readers.
Thank you. Oh my God. But yeah, it makes it refreshing because you do have those 2 minds to bounce off of.
Mhm.
And so, how is that, especially when you talk about everything has a definitive end, but you have something
Right.
like Star Trek,
Right.
Star Trek that's continuing? Does that make it easier knowing that things have an ending versus just like ongoing?
Oh, bro, we know where Star Trek ends.
Yeah.
you already have an ending
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, wildly, we 100% know where Star Trek ended. We had to pitch the ending for Star Trek when we pitched Star Trek, because part of the deal with Star Trek is that it's canon, which is not a thing that Star Trek comics really have generally been.
Well, right. Yeah.
So coming in and being like, we're not going to dance between the raindrops until we screw up and then the book's going to get invalidated. Like, we are going to be canon means that there's certain things we have to tell them how we're going to put those toys back in the box, because otherwise they're not going to give you those toys.
Right.
The biggest of which is Benjamin Sisko, a character who fundamentally must go back into the wormhole. That's not a spoiler. Lower Decks made it happen. Lower Decks put that into the canon by saying, hey, they go back to DS9 and she says, oh, he's still in the wormhole. And that's, 2.5 years after our book is done.
Yeah.
So we know that at that point he must be back there. And if we're going to take him out, that means we have to be able to put him back.
We know that Tom Paris has to get a commemorative plate.
Yep. We know that Data has to walk into Nemesis and die. We know that Beverly Crusher needs to put down her Starfleet uniform and fuck off for 25 years. We know a lot. We know that Scotty will never be seen again. We know that's the end of Scotty's journey, whatever that means. Like, there's a lot of these things where it's like, we know this has to happen because we've inserted ourselves into the canon and we're serious about maintaining it. So we had to pitch it from the beginning. But what's been incredible about Star Trek, for the first time in our lives, in our entire career, we've never had a book go beyond 12 issues. This is the first book we've ever had go beyond 12. And to have a book that not only goes beyond 12, but is going to go for as long as we want it to go, right? We know now where it's going to land because we've decided where it's going to land. But we've had all the time in the world to play on that book. And because fans have shown up, because the Eisners were incredible enough to nominate it for Best New Series, which was mind-blowing for us and mind-blowing for Star Trek. I think in general, it's the first time they've ever had an Eisner nod. Like the whole process on that book, having Defiant there with Chris.
Yeah, not just doing a single book, but actually launching a line.
Oh, wow.
Being able to do Sons of Star Trek with Mo, being able to build our first event, Day of Blood, and spoiler alert, our second event, which is coming.
Which is called...
Weird, the lights went out.
Yeah, crazy.
It's just been an incredible delight, and a lot of the credit for that goes to Heather Antos, our editor on that book, who's just a brilliant, brilliant editor.
Is there any pressure then from, like IPW crew, like, actually, this is doing pretty well, we want you to continue? Or is it like, nope, definitively, like, we're good, we're fine with this?
No, they've been super cool. What I'll say is we didn't get to put it down without putting something that we were going to pick up. Like, we're not done with Star Trek.
Yeah, we're not done with Star
There's
Trek.
always at the end the credits.
There's just...
The Hivemind will return.
The Hivemind will continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not done with Star Trek. When the last issue of the Star Trek ongoing series drops, we know both who is going to take on the next Star Trek ongoing. We already have that in works. We know what that is, and it's not us.
It's not us.
It shouldn't be us. We've done.
Bringing new, fresh ideas.
Yeah. It will be. When that happens, it will be time. But we also know what we're stepping onto. We have our own thing that we're going to do that we've wanted to do for a long time, and which is I think is going to kind of be our final statement on Star Trek for a while. I think that will probably be. We'll get done with that, and then we'll put it down. Kind of, yeah. And I'm really excited for that. That book's going to be a trip. It's going to be very different than what we've done on Star Trek before, but also I think will sit nicely within what we've done. So
I have no idea even how to talk about it without
without spoiling it. Yeah.
But it's like very neat.
Yeah, it's gonna be a neat. It's true. Yeah.
Now, you guys are going from all of these fun things like DC, Marvel, AEW, and now you've just announced a creator-owned project.
Yes.
With a lot of really, like you said, Derek's doing a very cover. Our friend Megan Huang is doing the cover. And
Yep.
She's incredible. If you've never seen her art, Rangers of the Divide, I highly recommend that book.
It's awesome.
But so what's that kind of like for you guys? What can you tell us about that book that's going to be coming out?
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. We kind of got our started with creator-owned stuff, Joyride at Boom, many years ago. And now we're circling back around to kind of tell a story that's been gestating for quite a while. But being able to really approach something that is brand new, that is ours, has been incredibly refreshing. And then for those who don't know, it's called Principles of Necromancy. They're a new publisher called Magma Comics. And it is effectively our kind of take on... it's not a fantasy it's a fantasy universe, but with a scientific bent.
Yeah, it's a fantasy universe where magic does not exist.
Yes. And this is the story of effectively a physician of such caliber that what he's effectively doing seems like magic to many people. Yet at the same time, he has one overwhelming goal, and that is to cure death itself.
Which all other doctors in this universe, and in this universe, doctors are effectively like wizards. There are 20 of them. They are all known.
They have a council.
If you see one,
Cure death.
If you see one, you stay out of their way.
Right.
Like it's a real, like, doctors are like a real thing in this universe because they are effectively the technological development in this world that takes it beyond a medieval premise, right? And each of them are unique and interesting and individual and kind of cool. Our main character, Dr. Jacob Eyes, is the youngest of them. And his thing is that, yes, he's said outright, I'm done with death, we're curing it. I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. And basically all the other doctors are like, heresy. Like, absolutely not, that's not what we do.
Like, they want to cure disease, absolutely. They want to help people be healthy.
Right.
But
if
one
they-
rule is that's
if they
the one
cure death, I mean, then they're out of a job.
They're all, yeah, also
That's a good
like, from a
point.
self-serving perspective.
Everybody wants to get paid. You know,
Yeah. So what our story follows is his journey towards doing that. But what's exciting to us about it is that it lets us play with a character or with a story framework we haven't really used a lot before, which is Hellboy. By which I mean like characters where you can take this character into a different genre in each issue, into a different kind of vibe in each issue, and you can change how the story is told in each issue. So issue 1 feels kind of like a Conan the Barbarian story invaded by Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh wow.
Issue 2 feels kind of like a small, low-key, like folk horror
Yeah,
tale
folk horror is a great way of putting it.
with a deep Frankenstein goo underneath the whole thing. Issue 3 is gonna feel like The Nick. Like it's gonna feel like a weird science fiction.
It's like a little wictive, like there's
Yeah.
gonna be...
It's
like,
gonna feel very different, and then like 4 is gonna be like a Dark Souls. Like we're really every issue and like really getting into like dark like gothic horror. Like every issue lets us play in a different mold, and every issue is seen through a different lens, and it's never Eyes. Dr. Eyes is never the protagonist of the issue. He is always the effect on the issue. He's always the person the issue encounters. And then you see how the people who he has encountered, how their lives are changed, adjusted, bent, destroyed, uplifted, whatever, made eternal by what he does. So it's made for a really amazing storytelling structure because we just, every issue gets to be its own. Sort of like we're doing in Outsiders. Every issue gets to be its own.
Like dropping the man, so to speak, vertical version story.
Yeah, exactly.
How did this come about? Did you guys approach them?
No.
How did this come about? How did this idea get fresh? Like, what started this baby?
That answer has a name, and it is Denton Tipton. Denton Tipton is the editor-in-chief, the head, the guy. Maybe he's not the editor-in-chief. Maybe Bobby's the editor-in-chief. He's the president of Magma Comics.
Okay.
Denton was editor-in-chief at IDW when we first came in. At IDW, him and David Hedgecock and a few other people were the people who brought us into Star Trek originally.
Right.
And Denton has been a big proponent of ours ever since. He's a lovely man and has been sort of looking for that next adventure. He left IDW. He started. He worked in heavy metal for a while, and then he started his own publisher there under Magma. But he wasn't happy with the terms that he was getting for his creators or the way that the money structure was working, and he really wanted it to be a lot more creator friendly. So he left.
This is definitely how meatballs get made.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
so he left, and he created, and he basically liberated Magma from that structure and got them into something new, which is what they've just announced, which is a very creator-friendly structure. It's one that really puts us in the driver's seat, but also provides, the kind of advances that allow for our artists to do the job without having to worry about like holding on to a day game, right?
Right.
Like we don't need to make a lot of money on a creator-owned book up front. And our artist has as much equity in this book as we do, so
Sure.
like we're all in success. We're all rising, like that's the point. But our artist is a new guy. He's got an Eamon Winkle. He hasn't done a lot of sequential work. We found him on a Twitter artist search a year and a half ago, and his work was so immediately like, "Yep, you're exactly right.
This is what we're looking for.
It's exactly what we want."
He's like a young Ben Temple Smith / Greg Capullo
/ Kelly Jones.
He's like a Kelly Jones Ben. Like he's
Ooh,
so detail oriented. His characters are incredibly emotional and empathic, but he does like guts really well.
Yeah.
And, like this
Well,
book got
you have to
guts.
with detail, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he's really, and you've seen the beginnings of his work on the A cover. The A cover, the pile of bodies with Dr. Eyes coming out of it. That's him, and he's a really incredible artist who we sort of pegged, and we were like, okay, maybe, like if we ever get this thing going, we should do that. But while we were doing that artist search, it was really just because for a year and a half, Denton was emailing us and just being like, so hey, creator owns book. Hey, creator owns.
What do you
want
want?
to do a book?
Yeah.
When are we doing a book? And we were so busy. I mean, last year we were doing between 5 and 6 books a month.
Probably
all of them
busiest
at Marvel.
creators, like writers,
Yeah.
over the last year.
As you can tell by this, by our enormous following. But like 11.
Because you're up against Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I
I'm
did
just,
break that news at first. I was like, I think Back to the Future's going, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Let's move
I'm
this
having
part.
fun with it.
we're gonna go crash their panel. You know what? They're not better than you.
I like that.
Let's
Yeah. Let's show that Michael J.
Kick
Fox.
Michael J. Fox's ass.
Sorry.
But we
I think you are.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really great way to never work again. I never forgive myself. I love Michael J. Fox. Yeah. Right?
I do actually.
No, I know. Genuinely.
I love Michael J.
It's
Fox.
there.
Yeah, I love
It's
Michael
there.
J. Fox.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But he literally at San Diego Comic Con like 2 years ago, he stayed late at a party just so he could walk home with me. And like Denton was just like, the whole time we were going there was like, here is what Magma's gonna be. Here's how the structure's gonna work. Here's why you should do it. Here, I want you as a launch title. What is the book? And we kept putting him off because we were so busy.
I mean, and everybody has always heard, horror stories of brand new publishers and how they promise the mood and then how it all
Right.
makes
You've seen it happen time and time again.
Time and time again.
And so we were really patient, or like really cautious.
We were like, effectively,
Because
like,
I'm
we love
sure it's
you.
like we have a really good thing going right now. Like, look at all these, Marvel, DC titles, IDW. Like, we have a lot of really good stuff. So it's like, all right.
And not to be like mercenary.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not one of those like we're better than
It's,
you.
it has nothing to do with that at all. It was literally just, we have so many of those that we are too busy, right? If it was like any given month, at one point, we were producing an issue of Guardians, Cat, or Thunderbolts, depending on what month it was, Outsiders, Batman Beyond, and Star Trek. So that was like 5 issues of comics that were coming out on the regular, and then a lot of like little single issue things here and there, like One Bad Day Clayface, or Alien Black, White, and Blood, which is coming out next month.
Timeless.
Or Timeless, right? We get pulled in on a lot of little things.
Right.
So we were like, not little things, but like single issue things.
They-
And so we were, and so yes,
and that's the tricky thing. They're like, hey, you want to do 10 pages of Batman? And you're like, of course I want to do
Why
10
wouldn't
pages of
I want to
Batman.
do this right now?
That's
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
The
but then-
10 pages keep adding.
But then you're so busy, and then like we ended up on a television show, and we ended up doing like we're on this game now, and so our time was just super limited, and we're like, but we have been really wanting to get back into Creator Run, so we knew that if we were gonna do one, it was gonna be with Denton if he got this right. So he said, look, the minute that the money's right, the minute you can send a contract so that we all know this is actually gonna happen, we will do this book. Is that cool? And he was like, absolutely, I will let you know. And then the entire process, we would just get emails every couple of months from Denton being like, so here's the financial structure. Okay, the investors are talked to. I think we're gonna have this thing happen.
And was
the
like,
minute that it was
like
ready.
and
Right.
knew that we weren't blowing him off, and he was like,
Yeah.
guys, working on the contract, working on the
I think it
contract,
helps. He also
working on the
comes
contract.
from, bigger publishers too, so he probably had some insight.
He absolutely knew what he was doing. And he's been a creator. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so
And that's the cool thing, like being part of this young company, seeing how well they treated us, like we really want to support them because every other company should be following this model.
yeah,
Right.
it's a great model, and they've been really supportive. It's a great small crew. It's and so eventually Denton literally hit us up and was like, "Okay, it's done, but we need to start going on a book. So what's the book?
Right.
So
You
book?
haven't told me what the
The
book
book.
is. What's the book?" And literally, no joke, it wasn't like we had Dr. Eyes in our back pocket. He hasn't been sitting there for years just yet.
This is on the fly.
It was literally, we sat down and we were like, what if we have one shot at doing a creator run this year? Knowing that the other creator run book that we have coming out is With Wolf, our kickstarted fantasy book that we did, like horror fantasy that we did, that we kickstarted a couple years ago. It's finally coming out in April through Vault. We were like, okay, if we know that that's going to be coming out, if we want to support that with another horror title, and we really want to do something that challenges us and does something interesting, what would that book look like? And we just had a long conversation about what kinds of stuff we would want to do, and we put a few ideas on the table, and we kept coming back to Eyes. Once we had him, and once we had the framework, and we kind of knew what this book could be, we kept going back to it because it kept feeling like, even though it has an ending at issue 4, like it's a nice, like if it only goes to 4, it's only goes. Magma wants it to be ongoing. I think if they succeed, the book will keep going,
right.
and we'll just keep doing this. And so their whole thing was like, please don't pitch us a mini, pitch us a book that can
Something
live.
that we can.
Yeah,
because
there's-
it's like
This is an act one. It's easily like an act one of a story that
You're also like their first, like their cornerstone book.
Exactly.
When people go back, they're going to be like, "Oh, this is what it started."
Right. And so we were like, we really want to make sure that it sits there. And Eyes came to us pretty fully formed out of that. And then it was just a matter of building out the universe and really making sure that we felt like it was there. And then we sent them the book. It was called Necromancer, and they came back and they were like, "We love this, but can it be called Principles of Necromancy?" And we were like, "We love that title.
Like, that's
That sounds
great.
great.
You guys, yeah,
Let's,
I guess
let's,
it's fine.
Let's go." And then only learned much later that we were sharing that launch with Steve Orlando, who was in our very first.
one of our longest like friends and collaborators in this industry.
Yep, and with Silicon Bandits, which looks incredible. Like their launch lineup was killer. And then we got to be the horror peg, and then there was a science fiction and a sort of fantasy peg, and we all got to sit around that. It's just been like, it's been really cool to watch happen. And we're really excited for people to see the book. I think it's going to be incredible.
What a fun behind the scenes Steve Orlando story.
Give us all the details.
No, it's the only time anyone's ever like shut me down publicly.
Oh, no.
No. We were in the Batman and Robin Eternal room. We were trying to break some story about kind of like a villain's relationship. And we're like, oh, this villain has a kind of a sidekick. And I was like, well, what if there's like a romance between these two? And then like the villain like kind of abuses this kid. And then Steve's just like, stop.
Please.
A villain.
You look at the stuff that is really hitting right now. It's not Marvel and DC. It's Invincible, and it's The Boys, and it's The Walking Dead, and it's Wictive,
it's Saga,
and it's Saga, and it's like these are
I know.
these are
I know us too.
these like
You
the
got the line cut and rolling.
they're nice. I have the Lion Cat statue.
No, there we go. Yeah, my wife.
But it's a really. I think it's because creator-owned comics, at the end of the day, fulfill the actual promise of comic books, which is no gatekeepers, nobody getting in the way between you and your story, no lawyer gets to tell you whether or not that idea is good or bad, no one gets to focus group your concepts, like none of that garbage. You get to step into the role of creator and create, and then go directly to the reader, and then the reader gets to sit here and ask questions, and you get to have a direct response and relationship. Like, that shouldn't need Captain America to make that connection. It's great to do it, and that's going to turn you on. Like, I found great creators through Marvel and DC that I followed to creator-owned, right? But what we try to do is treat our Marvel and DC work as if it was creator-owned. Really push it as far as we can, not let ourselves get stuck in the mold of, like, how do we write the Guardians like James Gunn is? Like, no. How are we going to write the Guardians like we're going to write the Guardians? And if you follow us there, huzzah. And if you don't follow us, I understand. It was weird. Like, that's what that's what we want our work to be. Is we want our work to be this like singular thing that you can come to and dig. And that's been what we've been. I think moving into creator-owned. I mean, we'd be fools not to be doing more there because it is we've spent the time in the big two enough that now we can do that and reasonably maybe have success. We'll see. Really early in our career, Cy Spurrier, who was one of our early sort of mentors in this industry, told us something that really stuck with us because we were just finishing Joyride and we were like, all right, when's our next creator? Who's an image? Choose an image. He was like, don't do an image book right now. He was like, we were like, what? He was like, spend a few years doing big two. Don't rush to doing this because you'll be wasting money. Like, you'll be paying for something that no one reads. Like, go find your fans, and then launch a creator-owned. And we're finally, I think, at that stage where we feel comfortably like we can launch a creator-owned, and stores can order it and know that people will buy it on name, and that's like really gratifying to us.
Yeah.
But we are just getting started. We have,
And that's kind of like right now. It's like, well, smaller publishers to support this kind of creator-owned.
Right.
The trick is also, someone has to pay for this stuff.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah.
And there's that kind of like there's like the mid tier. It's like, we got the money, we're going to support you, we're going to pay for this, and then obviously images, you pay for it yourself, baby.
Yeah.
So that is obviously the golden ring, and that's what we're watching, and that's what our eyes are on, and folks should expect something from us in that space.
eventually.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah. It's a thing on the.
We've got an artist we absolutely want to work with, and we're just kind of finding the time.
Yeah, and that's the best part. It's like kind of like, oh, we made it, kind of almost moment.
Oh, shut up!
Yeah.
You watch your beautiful mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of like, oh, now you can go back. It's like you got out of here. Now you can go back and be like, hey, we paid our dues. Now we're gonna circle back around because you never forgot where you came from, which is very easy to do from all the stories, especially the stories you guys are telling. It's very easy to be like, oh, yeah, we're better than that now. But you remember.
I think you will. Anybody who knows us knows we kind of don't operate like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really a part of us that ever goes like, we're better than that, like ever. And I think maybe that comes from having been in Hollywood for so long, as like what they call baby writers, which is what they call young screenwriters. And you really just get kicked around for a living. Like that's really your job, is just to go.
If you ever want to be humbled, go work in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's to go work in rooms for free and be told that you're worthless. It's great. It really does a number on your self-esteem. But I think that what we learned out of that process, because there were both of us there and we were able to hold each other up, is like, as long as we stuck together, as long as we believed in the work, as long as we sharpened the other's blade, that sounds weird, we would be able to like manage.
Sharpie,
Yeah, it's steel on steel. And the more that we managed that, the more we were able to like say fundamentally, okay, like we believe in the work, we can do it. But even still, every time we start a new thing, we really don't ever like. It's very rare that we go like, we've made it. We like.
Your wife's behind you, like, shut up.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, actually, that is something. We'll sit there and we'll be grousing. We're like, oh my god, like this is a trippy, or this book just fell apart. And oftentimes, our wives are the ones who are like, guys, just take a step back and realize how fucking hard this rips. And it's like, right, actually, thank you for that perspective, because it's really easy. Yeah.
It's been a while since my wife was like a big fan of one of our books, and she loves Thunderbolts, and it's really just like, it's like the nicest thing in the world to me, because every time she reads an issue, she comes out and she's just like, this rips so hard, I love this book. And it's like, yes! Like she never finished her Cap run, like, and like it's not for lack of trying, I just don't think it was really like playing for her. Thunderbolts, she fucking loves it, and it's awesome. I think she's trying to read Star Trek now, but she's like watched all of Star Trek with me, and I'm excited.
So there's like traveling. You know,
Yeah. It's like it's all stacked up on her bedside table, and I'm just waiting for her to read
You're
it.
sitting there still, you're gonna read.
Slide into the reading pile.
Yeah, exactly. I am her reading pile. Unfortunately, she is a creative executive in Hollywood, so her job is to read.
Right.
So she has a reading pile this high of scripts she has to read for her job,
Right.
and then she gets to read her husband's books for fun. It's like, yeah, maybe she'll get like.
Look,
5
I've been
minutes.
reading all day. I'll get to it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't pressure. There's no pressure.
Yeah, I was showing Amanda, my wife, I was like, I'm so excited for our creator. I'm like, look at this, and she was like, that looks fun.
Gross.
Like, great.
Sure, right. This is not a book for you.
Yeah.
My mom is so excited. I'm
There
like,
you go. Like,
I don't
Oh,
think
this is for
she's
you.
got a pull list. She has a pull list. She buys all my books from her local shop. And I was like, I love you, Mom. Go ahead and buy it, but this is not a book you will like.
I think my mom might.
Your mom might like
I think
it.
my mom
Your
might
mom's
like my book.
Your mom's a
Weirdo?
A weirdo.
Yeah. A witch and a weirdo? Yes.
I mean, that's kind of like Collins' mom for us. She watches everything we do. My mom.
My
Yeah.
mom's a Patreon. Like, Mom, Patreon keeps some of that
Wow,
money.
yeah,
You don't need to do that.
But yeah.
Hi, Mom.
hey.
Be here tomorrow.
But yeah, I think we really like, and also that comes from the fact that like we've also had those brass ring moments where you like get a big thing and then it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, like we've had a couple of times when we've gotten dream jobs and then the dream jobs have evaporated. Like not in comics, yes, but like in film and television, in podcasting. Like we've had these places where it's been like, oh my god, can you believe that we get to do, and then it's gone. And you're like, oh, got it, right? Like even done deals can be vaporware sometimes. So we really try to focus on the idea of like, it doesn't matter what the thing is in terms of like its brand. The brands come and go. What's hot comes and goes. What we try to do is make sure that whatever the book is, whatever the thing that we have an opportunity to work on is, if we really think we have something to say about it, that it just rips as hard as possible. Just sort of I think that's becoming ideally the way that you find our stuff. It's not like, oh, I really like that one tone or that one vibe, because we play in so many tones and vibes, but rather, I really liked the ideas. I really liked the writing. I really liked the execution. And hopefully that stuff is the stuff that is consistent across our books, less so like themes or tone, because there's two of us, we get to push around that.
We get to hang out with our best friend.
Yeah. Every time we're like, oh, we have to work. It's like, yeah, but on the flip
But you're
side,
hanging out with like
we
your
have
best
to.
friend a week
We have
ago,
to work. Like, it's not so bad.
Could be worse. Could
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
be worse.
Yeah.
One big thing on my mind is you guys like to have different soundtracks for yourself.
We do.
Yeah.
Is there any insight into the soundtrack for this book? Since it's more horror type theme.
Oh, for Necromancer.
Yes.
It's been tough.
Yeah, it's been tough.
It's been tough.
And so far we have different vibes on it a little bit.
Yep.
It's been tricky to kind of align.
Yep.
But I have been listening exclusively to the Nick soundtrack,
Ooh.
which is a little too electronic.
Yeah, it's too busy for me. Like in terms of the electronica, it's a great soundtrack and it totally works for Collin. For me, it's I need something that's like a little eerier. Like I think because Eyes is kind of creep, I really need to like get in the headspace. So I've been listening to Ari Aster soundtracks a lot, like Midsummer has become like a big play in my house, which is no fun for anyone because
Everyone's walking around
that soundtrack is a lot of and like or like a woman crying, and it's like nobody wants to listen to this, but it really helps, so I just do it. But I should make a soundtrack.
Probably will find something with Trent Reznor. Always we circle back around to Trent Reznor.
Yeah, it does tend to work. We haven't actually created like a proper playlist for that one yet. I'm working on a playlist for our next Marvel project right now, which technically I think is a public playlist. So if you want to find my playlists and figure out what we're writing, you could. But you won't. Like, there's no way of telling from the soundtrack.
But we're getting into like 100 gecs.
Okay.
Yeah. We're listening to a lot of young people music right now for reasons.
But people who, I mean, honestly, it's a weird one. Yeah, find Jack's public playlist and listen to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. And that thing fucking
I actually have it
Yes,
downloaded
Lauren
to
has
play.
it
I found
downloaded.
it.
So
nice.
She's been posting them out on our social.
Oh,
I was
really?
gonna put it
She
on
has,
Bluetooth.
yes.
and
Oh,
then
I mean, that
there's-
soundtrack is like fucking Mothers of the Sun is the absolute perfect song. Every time, just boot it up and listen to it before you start flipping through your issue.
Yeah.
And it's like, that soundtrack I will fucking kill for.
Yeah, it was
it's
great.
a great playlist.
It was really, really fun to put together. The one that I meant to post, I don't think I've ever actually posted it, but it is like out there on my Spotify for people if they want to find it, is the Batman Beyond Neo Gothic soundtrack.
I was listening to that one yesterday.
Yeah, so that one I crowdsourced.
Because I was reading it.
Yeah, because I was like genuinely like, I don't know enough music in this vibe. Like I'm very into music, but like I have like 4 or 5 bands that I go to for this feel, like Sunno and like the Meldons. Like I have like a few bands that I would go to, Boris, who I would like go to for this like really dredgy, heavy, underground Gotham. And I was like, I really need, and so I put out a thing on Twitter. I was like, goth bands, give me your goth bands. Like I want them all. Just like everything. And for my whole day on Twitter was awesome. It was just everybody giving me goth band recommendations, and I listened to all of it, and I just, every time I heard a song, it was like, oh, that's Batman Beyond Zone. It just ended up in that playlist, and then Neo Gotham got written to that, which was really lovely. So thanks Twitter for that, and for Eamon Winkle. That platform is a nightmare, but it still works for some stuff.
And if anyone wants to know the perfect soundtrack for Captain America,
Yeah, weird, but
Billy Joel.
Oh yeah.
it's a literal specific combination in our run of Billy Joel for certain stuff and Radiohead's Kid A for everything else.
Yeah.
It was like whenever it was like a conspiracy plot line thing, it was Kid A, and whenever it was
Captain America gets Radiohead, and Steve Rogers gets Billy Joel. Like you know that he was at Madison Square Garden, like he wore the little hat, like he kind of was like going to the residency all the time. Like it's just good tunes.
Well, I know she opened the Weird Told Us when they start to kick you out. So
That's the Oscar music.
You know what?
They're telling us we're getting out.
Thank you all. Thank you all
Thank you
so
guys.
much.